Today we're going to read part of a book called You Wouldn't Want to Be an American Colonist, A Settlement You'd Rather Not Start, written by Jacqueline Morley, illustrated by David Antrim. This book is nonfiction, and I want you to pay attention to how the author and illustrator use humor in the writing and in the illustrations to capture the reader's interest. That's you. We're not going to finish this book today, but you will learn more about this topic in your research for social studies in these next couple of weeks. Introduction. It's the end of the 16th century, and Elizabeth I is Queen of England. She has defended England against Spain, the biggest power in Europe. Spain is strong and very rich. They have silver mines in America, the new land discovered by Christopher Columbus a century ago. Now, I'll challenge that language right there. Remember what we said about asking about the different perspectives? Do you think that the American Indians living on North America would have thought that Christopher Columbus discovered America? Probably not. So there's just an example of how you can question the things you read. The Spanish funded Columbus's voyages and claimed America as theirs. However, America is huge and Spain can't control it all. The French, Dutch, and English are there too, exploring the North and staying out of Spain's way. They also want America's gold and silver. This sounds good to you. You want to join the next trip to start an English colony. If you knew what hardships and struggles lay ahead, you certainly wouldn't want to be an American colonist. And here's the routes they would take. Of course, they'd need to take a boat because it was 1607. Virginia, a bit of history. You may have heard of the state Virginia. Walter Raleigh is Queen Elizabeth's favorite courtier. He tells her he has found the perfect site for the colony she hopes to set up in America. He sends out an exploratory mission. They return with reports of a warm, fertile spot on the North Atlantic shores of America. This spot is far from any Spanish settlement. The Queen is delighted. She dubs Raleigh a knight and declares that the new territory will be named Virginia in her honor. Raleigh gathers an expedition of around 500 male settlers and sets sail in 1585. But their colony isn't a success. What goes wrong? And she says, "Rise, Sir Walter, and tell me of this paradise." The right site. Raleigh knows he has to find a site first. In 1583, his half-brother had set out with 260 men, but had no idea where to land. He drowned at sea. So these little pieces of text next to an illustration or a picture, do you know what those are called? Those are called captions, and they give us more information about the image that you see on the page. Paradise found? The men Raleigh sent to find a site describe America as a paradise. Ripe grapes grow wild, and the natives are friendly. Natives. They bring 2 native people back to England to learn their language. Londoners stare at them in amazement. I wonder if those people wanted to go with them. 7 ships. Raleigh raises a fleet of 7 ships to take his colonists across the Atlantic Ocean. He does not go himself, but puts 2 tough, experienced commanders in charge. Handy hint! To persuade people to fund a trip, suggest that they will make a fortune from capturing Spanish cargo ships along the way. The Lost Colony. Raleigh's colonists settle on an island called Roanoke. They bully the native Algonquian tribe for food and to find out where gold can be found. The colonists take hostages and burn villages. When a supply ship doesn't arrive, the colonists sail home. In 1587, a second expedition, led by John White, includes women. The Algonquians are hostile. That means they're not friendly. So White sails home for supplies. The colonists left behind are told to leave a message if they leave the settlement. When White returns 3 years later, he finds the buildings torn down and the settlement abandoned. The word Croatoan has been carved on a post, but nobody knows what has happened to the colonists. So if you have time to pause the video and read some of these captions, that might be fun. I'm going to just read a couple of them and then move on so we have time to hear more of what happens. First baby. White's daughter has a baby at Roanoke and names her Virginia. She is the first English colonist born in America. He's asking himself, do you think that's where they've gone? Looking at this word, Croatoan. Handy hint. If you treat people well, they are much more likely to help you. Pretty sure we could use that hint today. The voyage out. Provisions you'll need. Provisions are supplies. Delicious. It's 1606, and despite the Roanoke disaster, some optimistic London merchants form the Virginia Company to finance a trading colony in Virginia. They're sending out 3 ships, the largest only 72 feet long. You are one of 144 settlers crammed on board. With the stormy Atlantic Ocean threatening to sink the boat, you're already thinking this was a bad decision. If you're lucky, you will spend 2 months at sea. However, the trip can take up to 6 months if storms blow your ship off course. Salted meat and fish, dried fruit, beans, and hard biscuits are all you eat. Fresh supplies. The ships take a southerly route via the Caribbean islands. You can buy fresh fruit, vegetables, and meat there. Oh, the meat has maggots! The water tastes foul. The biscuits are moldy. At least they didn't pay for their journey. I wonder what he means by that. Let's read up here and see. At least you're not paying for this terrible journey. Those colonists who do pay will be given land in the new colony. You can't afford the fare, so you have promised to work for the company for 7 years instead. There aren't any private rooms on board, so you sleep on the floor of the smelly lower deck. Ugh. Handy hint. Pick a ship with women on board to make life more comfortable. There aren't any on this trip. So at this time, it was customary for women to do work like cooking and cleaning. Now, of course, we know now that anyone can do those jobs. Anyone can do any kind of job. Third time's a charm? April 1607. Virginia at last. The ships explore a river to find a good place to settle. The leaders argue all the time, despite clear orders from the company. The site must be healthy, fertile, that means you could grow crops on it, and easy to defend. It also needs to have a clear view of ships approaching from the sea, in case the Spanish attack. Luckily, the settlers find a place where ships can dock close to the bank. The land is low and unoccupied. It's almost like an island, so it's hard to attack from land. It's a perfect spot to start the colony. Look, they're fighting. That way! No, this way, you fool! Get rich quick. Some colonists won't do heavy work. They are gentlemen. And in England, they didn't have to work. They've come to make a quick fortune from gold and won't obey orders. So you can see some of the problems with the site. Swampland. Most of the land is swamp. The rest consists of a thin layer of good soil over muddy clay. Crazy climate. And mosquitoes who carry diseases. Settling in. The new settlement is called Jamestown after England's new king, James I. Tents are put up and the work begins. Soon your hands blister and bleed from chopping trees. You're not used to all this hard work. The goal is to build a strong fort. The colony was almost wiped out in the first few days. 200 Algonquian warriors launched an ambush while everyone was working and unarmed. You would all be dead if cannons fired from the ships hadn't scared the attackers off. He says, I thought I was coming to paradise. Oops. Handy hint, take advice from friendly locals. One suggestion is to cut the long grass around the fort because enemies can hide there. Why do you think the Algonquians would have been upset that these settlers were here? So here are some other various problems that they were facing. And we're going to stop there today because we are going to do some research on our own about what it was like to be a colonist. And this book just tells you about the first successful American colony, Jamestown. Eventually, more and more colonies popped up, and there were many options for colonists as far as places to live. So in the research you'll be doing today, you'll be learning more, and I hope you enjoyed that book.